What's up, there, guys? Brian here, the 3 Topics Gamer here to share with you another one of my top 5 list videos to share with you guys today. Now, this video is actually serving as the third and final part to a 3-part series where I go over some of the best, or my personal favorite best duels that the primary trinity of main protagonists for the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime series took part in. Now, in the first 2 parts, in the first video, I went over the top 5 best duels that Mr. Joey Wheeler took part in, and in the second part, I happened to go over the top 5 best duels that my favorite duels of all time, Seto Kaiba, took part in. So for this particular video, I'll be going over the top 5 best duels that Mr. Yugi Muto took part in. Now, as the main protagonist, he's been in all the primary key important duels of this series, and he's had a laundry list of incredible duels that he took part in. Now, before I start, if you happen to enjoy this video by the end, please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to keep track of me on all my future videos, and make sure you have those notification bells set just so you are aware that the second that any of my future videos become uploaded. And before I start, I just want to clarify one thing. When I'm speaking with the name Yugi Muto, there are several people that kind of see Yugi Muto and the Pharaoh as 2 different people. And they are 2 different people, but they kind of just both share the same name, Yugi. In some variations, the Pharaoh was called Yami Yugi, and then you have Yugi Muto. So I just put it into one body. So Yugi Muto is I'm just putting them into just one clear body, because they both do share one body, just so it doesn't confuse anybody between Yugi and Atem. I'm just viewing them as just one person, like always. So, without wasting any more time, let's start off with what I believe to be his 5th best duel of all time. Taking the 5th spot on my list has to go to the epic Season 1 finale and final duel of the Duelist Kingdom tournament, as Yugi finally takes on Pegasus to save not only the soul of his grandpa, but to save the souls of the Kaiba brothers also. The entire first season was building up to this duel, and it did not disappoint. I would even go so far as to say that it was by far the best duel of the entire first season. Now, the only negative thing that I can say about this duel is that because this duel is divided into 3 phases, the first third of this duel is not very interesting, as Pegasus takes the early lead by reading Yugi's mind and counting his moves. The reason I don't like this first third is that everybody knew Pegasus would do this going in. Even Yugi knew this was going to happen, and yet he looked dumb for being so surprised when it actually did happen. However, we are then shown how creative Yugi has to be with his use of the Millennium Puzzle, as Yugi and the Spirit are successful in countering Pegasus' powers by switching minds every turn, allowing them to make a comeback. Now, once this duel gets into the 3rd phase, and little Yugi is knocked out with this duel now taking place in the Shadow Realm, this is where the duel gets serious, as Pegasus and the Spirit have an epic last number of turns, and with the aid of Yugi's friends, the Spirit is successful in summoning one of the most powerful monsters in the game, and with a clever use of deception is able to catch Pegasus off guard, destroying the most powerful monster he summons, winning the duel. This duel had everything that a season finale duel should have. It had high stakes, it had down moments for the hero, it even showed us things that we'd never seen before, but above all, it was just an entertaining and fun duel to watch. And when compared to the mass majority of duels that happened over the course of Season 1, this duel, I believe, was one that I actually think is worth rewatching, and no matter how many times I go back and rewatch this duel, I still enjoy it, which helps credit this duel out of any duel in Season 1 a spot on this list. Number 4 goes to the second duel between Yugi and Raphael in Season 4. As memorable as the first duel was between Yugi and Raphael, with Yugi suffering one of the very few losses over the course of the entire series, out of the 6 duels that he takes part in over the course of Season 4, this one to me always seemed to be the best. It was during this duel that not only did Raphael establish himself as not only being one of the strongest secondary villains of the season, but he is easily a top 10 strongest duels in the entire first generation of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime series. With Raphael's master level use of the Orichalcos along with his Guardian deck, he provided one of the toughest duels Yugi ever has. Yugi was able to bring out some of the strongest monsters that he's ever summoned, along with using some of the most creative strategies that we've ever seen, and Raphael never once panicked and was able to respond every single turn. Yugi, along with Seto Kaiba, who was watching this duel, are both impressed and acknowledge Raphael's master level of dueling talent. It takes a serious turn when Yugi is successful in destroying Raphael's most treasured monster, which causes him to rage out and summon an even more dangerous creature in the form of Guardian Dread Scythe, that possesses a rather unique special ability, making it extremely difficult to get rid of. To respond to this new dangerous creature, Yugi has to take a completely new approach, and with the use of a couple of key cards is successful in forming a new unique weapon equipped card that gives him the edge that he needs to take down Guardian Dread Scythe. It is also during this duel that, just like the duels that Raphael's partners Alistair and Valiant have had, that you actually get to learn a bit about Raphael's backstory and how tragic it is. The only element of this duel that I'm not a fan of is how it ultimately ends, by removing one of the key elements that nearly all the other duels that took part over the course of Season 4 had, and for this not to pay off in a later episode. Despite this flaw, it still remains my favorite duel that took place in Season 4, and fitting to take the 4th spot on my list. Taking the bronze medal has to go to the final duel of the Battle City tournament, as Yugi battles Yami Merrick in the finale duel of Season 3. I think that out of all the antagonist build-ups, this one probably had the least amount of time to really develop. Going back to Season 2, the conflict was really between Yugi and Merrick Ishtar, but once Merrick Ishtar's alter ego took over, the situation became much more dangerous. I do not believe that Yami Merrick is the strongest antagonist duelist, but he is by far the most sadistic duelist the series has ever had. This guy just gets off by torturing his opponents, but I do believe that it was during this duel that he was the most dangerous. The stakes for this duel are taken to another level, as at the start of this duel, Merrick is so powerful with his shadow powers that he was actually able to separate the souls from each other, causing the younger duelists to suffer pain as the life points go down. And as an added bonus, he actually brings his alter ego Merrick Ishtar into the duel, causing him to be consumed by the darkness if Yami Merrick happens to lose this duel, creating a lose-lose situation no matter who wins. It was during this duel that all 3 Egyptian god cards would be used, and both Yugi and Merrick would use their god cards to great effect. Merrick was able to summon Ra multiple times, and even managed to pull off some impressive new cards to save himself from being outsmarted a couple of times. While on the other side of the field, Yugi finds himself in multiple tough situations, but never once loses his cool. Much like Yugi's second duel against Raphael in Season 4, the only thing I really don't like about this duel is how it ultimately ends, which involves multiple story elements outside of the actual duel itself, which may be important, but still slightly hurts what was still considered a great conclusion to the greatest story arc of the first generation of Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime series. Second place on my list has to go to Yugi's first encounter against an Egyptian god card, as he duels against Merrick Ishtar through his Mayan slave, Strings the Quiet One. This duel is not only high on this list, but I would easily consider it to be a top 5 greatest duels that I've ever seen during this area of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime series. An interesting theme that seemed to be shared by a number of Yugi's duels during the Battle City tournament is that his opponents used decks that were built around a single monster. The Rare Hunter had Exodia, Arcane had the Dark Magician, and now Strings had Slifer the Sky Dragon. The first number of turns are pretty good, added alongside a number of verbal exchanges between Yugi and Merrick. Once Slifer is brought on the field and Yugi learns exactly how it works, he realizes that he has a very short window to try to take Slifer down early, which he would ultimately fail to do. At one point, Yugi feels completely defeated, staring up at the most OP monster he has ever seen up to this point, but with some encouragement from Kaiba, who was watching this duel, manages to pull off one of the greatest comebacks ever. Now, unlike spots 4 and 3 on this list, the big reason why I love this duel so much is that it has without question my favorite ending to any duel that I've ever seen during the anime's run. With a few key moves, Yugi manages to turn what Merrick considered to be a perfect combination of cards against him, so much that Yugi turns Slifer's special ability against Merrick, causing one of the all-time greatest infinite loops in Yu-Gi-Oh! History. This was one of the most incredible moments I had ever seen when this episode first premiered, and it still holds up to me all these years later. This duel tells a story of adversity and never giving up against overwhelming odds. Also, as a bonus, this was the first time we ever got to see Yugi use his jacket as a cape, and this is without question my personal favorite character design look for Yugi, as he just looks so badass like this. And it's because of all these factors combined that helped grant this incredible duel the second place spot on my list. Coming in first in the best duel that Yugi took part in just so happens to be my favorite duel in Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime history, and that was Yugi's third duel against Seto Kaiba in the semifinals of the Battle City tournament. The rivalry between Yugi and Kaiba defined an entire era of Yu-Gi-Oh! And was the benchmark for which all rivalries afterwards are compared to. And out of all the duels that these two have against each other, this one is by far the best. Now, this duel ranked pretty high on my Kaiba list ranking video, but in terms of performance, Yugi comes out slightly ahead on this list. Now, I've said this before, but But this was the first time we ever got to see two Egyptian god cards go head to head in what still remains one of the longest exchanges of effective countering between two extremely strong duelists, showing not only how well they know each other, but just how effective they are at adapting to each other's ever constantly changing tactics. From Yugi's perspective, I do believe that he was fighting for higher stakes. Kaiba was simply fighting for himself, but after seeing what had just happened to Joey during his duel with Merrick, Yugi, I'm sure, felt that this was a battle he needed to win more than ever, and it would not be easy. I'd even go so far as to say that this was probably the hardest duel Yugi ever took part in during the course of the first 3 seasons, even more so than his eventual duel against Yami Merrick. The 3 stages of this duel each have great exchanges showing the approaches that each duelist was going for, but in the end it would be Yugi who would use Kaiba's own blind rage against him, allowing him to take the eventual win, allowing both duelists, regardless of outcome, to walk away from this duel becoming even stronger than they were when they both entered. It's this kind of dynamic that is almost exclusive to this particular battle. This was classic Yu-Gi-Oh! Dueling at its absolute best during this era, and for Yugi, this was him at his best because that's what was required of him, and to me, performance-wise, helps establish this duel as not only being my personal favorite duel of all time, but what I believe to be the best duel that he ever took part in against a truly worthy opponent. And that'll do it for what I believe to be the top 5 best duels that the team of Yami Yugi Muto took part in. Now, if you're a fan of these pair and you have, a set of your favorite duels that they took part in together or as separate, make sure you share your list with me and everyone else in the comments down below. And if you have any more requests for future top 5 list videos or, worst best ranking tier list videos, make sure you share those ideas with me in the comments down below as well. So like always, I want to thank you guys for watching. You're awesome, and I will see you all next time.